Welcome back to Storytime Dark. This is the first episode in a brand new haunting series. We're visiting each state in America one by one, gathering the scariest stories and urban legends we could find. This episode we visit Florida. We have 5 stories lined up, and I will remind everyone it is possible to visit all these locations in person. If you like this type of content and want to come along for this trip across America, don't forget to subscribe and like. What state would you like to see next? What stories from Florida did we miss you want to see in part 2? Let us know in the comments. Tale number 1. The Bloody Bucket Bridge. In the little Florida town of Wauchula, there is a road that dates back over 100 years known as Bloody Bucket Road. As you travel down that old road, you'll come to Bloody Bucket Bridge, a small bridge across a narrow waterway that locals say has been known to run red with blood. Of course, it's not publicly called Bloody Bucket Road on any map, but it's a name that has stuck with the location for decades because of its ominous past. As the story goes, an elderly now freed slave woman and her husband settled in Wauchula, Florida right after the Civil War. There she became a midwife. Some say she did the horrible things she eventually did because she never really got over having her own children taken away from while a slave. It was also rumored that she was slowly losing her mind. Whatever the cause, she began suffocating and killing the babies she delivered just as they were being born. She would take the babies down to the river where she would bury their bodies along the bank. She would then walk to a nearby bridge where she would dump buckets of blood from the delivery into the water. Because no one could prove she was actually murdering the children, and they weren't just stillborn, she was never arrested. Needless to say, after repeated deaths the locals stopped using her as a midwife. But she was rumored to have killed close to 100 children. She spent the remainder of her days a mad woman living in the Florida swamps, screaming that she was haunted by the ghosts of the babies. She would sit in her home and listen to the cries of all the children that had perished by her hands. Next to her, she supposedly kept a bucket which would fill with a ghostly blood. Several times a day she would walk down the road carrying the bucket to the bridge where she would dump it into the water. And the rumor is that to this day, if you go down to the bridge during a full moon and look into the water, you will see that it runs red with blood. Just be warned that some say you can still hear the cries of children emanating from the woods. Tale number 2. The Devil's Tree. In Port St. Lucie on Canal C-24, there's beautiful 150-year-old oak tree located in Oak Hammock Park called the Devil's Tree. This legend isn't that old. On January 8, 1971, before Hammock Park was built, a serial killer, sometimes known as the Killer Deputy, Gerard John Schaefer, captured 2 young girls while they were hitchhiking. Gerard killed the 2 girls and buried them under the tree. In January 1977, 2 men discovered bones sticking up out of the ground along with deteriorating ropes tied with a hangman's noose. Since then, there have been reports of hooded satanic worshippers dancing around the tree, and some say you can still hear the girls screaming. Though there have been several attempts to cut down the oak, it seems that chainsaws refuse to work when near the tree. All the teeth fell out of the saw blade when they tried to cut it down with a 2-man crosscut saw. When they tried an axe, the axe head came off of the handle and split open the head of the chopper, killing him. The tree is still standing in a small open area down a trail that cuts through the park. Locals pass along stories of cold spots in certain areas of the park and the park ladies' bathroom being haunted by the dead girls. In 1992, a priest placed a cross at the base of the oak and performed an exorcism. In 1994 the cross was knocked over. In 1995, Gerard John Schaefer was stabbed to death in prison. The park is located at 1982 Southwest Villanova Road, Port St. Lucie. Tale number 3. Captain Tony's Saloon, said to be the oldest bar in Key West. What is now Captain Tony's Saloon was the original Sloppy Joe's bar, where legendary writer Ernest Hemingway spent most of his evenings. When first constructed in 1852, the building at 428 Green Street was an ice house that later became the city's morgue. The building then went through several incarnations, becoming first a telegraph station, a cigar factory, a bordello, a gay bar, and several speakeasies specializing in gambling, women, and bootleg rum. Captain Tony's is said to be the oldest saloon in Florida, and it is rumored to be haunted, thanks to the tree that grows through the middle of the chamber. The tree is believed to be where executions took place. 75 people were hanged from it. The apparition of one of them, a woman wearing a bloody blue nightgown, has been seen on the premises. The pool room is believed to be haunted because it is always cooler than anywhere else in the building. Locals say that the building was once an ice house and morgue in pre-electricity days, and those who didn't arrive alive at the port of Key West were buried right where the pool room stands today. There are also 2 tombstones inside the bar. One reads Elvira, daughter of Joseph and Susanna Edmonds, died December 21, 1822, age 19 years 8 months and 21 days. The other is the tombstone of Reba Sawyer, said to have had a long-time affair with a married man. They would meet in secret at the bar, but years after Reba's death, her husband discovered the details of the secret affair. He was so angry that he took her tombstone from the cemetery and put it on the sidewalk in front of the bar. Captain Tony decided to bring it inside so it could rest in peace. Another haunted spot in the bar is the women's bathroom. A fish is said to bring good luck here. Apparently, if you throw a quarter into the mouth of the huge grouper above the sign outside, and it is said good luck will follow you until you leave the island. Tale number 4. Pensacola Lighthouse Haunting. Located on a beautiful, tropical bay, the haunted Pensacola Lighthouse stands 159 feet over the coast. Originally built in 1826, and rebuilt to increase its visibility in 1859, it houses more than just the occasional tour group. The Pensacola Lighthouse is home to several spirits who have a knack for making their presence known. A sinister murderer haunts the living quarters in the tower of the old lighthouse, striking fear into the hearts of the locals. The believed ghost at the Pensacola Lighthouse is that of Michaela Penalber. Michaela married Jeremiah Ingraham, and the two moved into the lighthouse to become keepers shortly after its construction in 1826. For a while, the two lived happily on the bay, performing the daily duties of the lighthouse. Then, for unknown reasons, Michaela and Jeremiah started having marital problems. Some say Michaela had suffered years of spousal abuse, while others say she was crazy jealous of her lighthouse. But whatever the reason, one foggy evening in 1940, Michaela picked up a knife and sliced her husband to death. Lack of evidence led to no conviction, so Michaela spent the rest of her days tending to her beloved lighthouse alone. Michaela died in the lighthouse in 1855, but most people agree she never truly left. Objects are flung at visitors touring the historic keeper's quarters, suggesting her ghost is hostile and wants to be alone. The bloodstains left by her vicious murder remained on the floor until it was refurbished. One local who had lived in the lighthouse as a child reported trying to clean up the bloodstain. He claimed he would wash it away, but it would resurface stronger than before. People can sometimes hear a woman's voice calling their name specifically, as if to warn them, "I'm watching you." People have reported that they felt a presence following them up the stairs to the tower, where they can hear her breathing behind them. Undoubtedly, spirits of the past, refusing to rest, still roam the facilities of the Pensacola Lighthouse. The current caretakers offer late-night ghost hunts, taking tour groups through some of the most paranormally active places, including the murder site. If you're brave enough, go visit Miss Michaela for yourself. Tale number 5, the Fairchild Oak. For more than 400 years, the Fairchild Oak has silently observed the events along Bulow Creek, serving as a noble guard of the area's magnificent environment. Nearly 2 centuries ago in 1836, the neighboring Bulow plantation was destroyed during the Second Seminole War. And still, the Fairchild Oak stands strong. Known locally as the Ormond Oak for at least a century, the tree was christened Fairchild on December 11, 1955, in honor of Dr. David Fairchild, a world-famous botanist and naturalist who was fond of the tree, and visited it often in the earlier part of this century. Among Fairchild's great accomplishments was the introduction of soybeans to American agriculture. A bronze plaque near the base of the tree memorializes his important work. In the earlier part of this century, the tree was known as the Harwood Oak or the Hunt Oak, after the death of Norman Harwood of Minneapolis, who bought the property around the turn of the century and later killed himself at the tree. Imaginative tales abound about the death of Harwood and his ghostly haunting of the tree. Some say he hanged himself from the largest limb after a botched love affair. Others will tell you that Harwood shot himself while sitting against the trunk of the tree. According to local folklore, his ghostly presence still wanders the grounds around the tree. The real history of the oak lies with the Ormond family, for which the Northeast Fallujah city is named. In 1816, Captain James Ormond was given a large Spanish land grant north of present-day Ormond Beach. Later, his son, James Ormond II, established a plantation there called Arrieta, which soon became one of the most productive enterprises in the Halifax area. It is easy to imagine the ancient oak as a favorite haunt of the Ormonds, as the tree stood less than 200 feet south of their plantation house. It is said James Ormond II and the future Seminole leader Coacuchi, or Wildcat as he also was called, were boyhood friends who spent endless hours playing under the shady tree and climbing its highest branches. Later, they would fight against each other in the Battle of Donlawton during the Second Seminole War. James Ormond II was laid to rest by his 13-year-old son in a tomb not far from the Fairchild Oak. The inscription on Ormond's coquina grave reads, James Ormond, died September 4, 1829. An honest man. The high ground around the gravesite suggests that Ormond's son built the tomb on top of an existing Timucuan burial mound. How Ormond died still remains a mystery, but historians agree that the death must have been gruesome. In his reminiscences, his son writes, I witnessed my father's death, and God forbid that any of my children should ever be witness of such a scene. Amen. We hope you enjoyed this episode in Florida. To suggest the next state we cover or tip us off to more Florida stories we missed for the second part of this video, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're at it. Until next time. Goodbye.